The following is a live broadcast of a Lone Star community radio program, recorded and broadcasted live on irlonestar.com, Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and facebook.com/irlonestar. For more information on this show, please visit our show page at irlonestar.com/shows. To sponsor or donate to this program, visit our donate page at irlonestar.com/donate, or email us at lscrstudios@gmail.com, or give us a call at 936-666-1084. Lone Star Community Radio production and broadcast is possible by folks like you. So sponsor and donate today.
You're listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe.
And 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe, and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Legal Connection with Tony and Cheryl. Cheryl Ellsworth Jahani, me, and Tony Lynn Collins sitting across from me. We are here every Tuesday from 12 to 1 p.m. on 104.5 and 106.1 Conroe's FM. And we're two Texas licensed attorneys, and we are talking about your legal concerns and issues and questions. We get questions, we try to address those, and topics that are relevant. Today, you won't be surprised to find out that we're going to continue our talk on assault from last week, but also COVID-19 and some domestic violence issues that seem to be arising as a result of this shut-in, right, Tony?
Yes, very much so. Because last week we did not have an answer to our question. Why is it that so many publications and news agencies were saying that violence was down, crime is down? We had mayor,
All these stats,
Houston's mayor telling everybody, "Oh, this is great. Y'all just stay calm and keep up the good work. Don't be arrested.
Right.
Crimes are down." But at the same time, I know that my calls from clients with regard to domestic violence were up, and divorces were up.
Divorces are
and
up.
that made sense because the feedback was we don't have any place to go, and we're in each other's hair, and that we have money issues, and we don't all the things that when you've got that microcosm within the household are amplified when you're
Well, and I think you said last week too, Tony, maybe there's problems in the marriage. Maybe somebody's cheating or whatever, and now you're stuck at home with that person.
Yes. And you're trying to make it work, and you're thinking this is no big deal, but
Right.
before you could just leave and go visit your girlfriend or
Right.
leave and go to work or whatever. And this is not an issue. This show is not for those people that are like Jim and I right now, where for the most part it's like a little vacation time until it's over. And I
Right.
know that I have brought this up probably for each show, that I believe that COVID-19 will run its course from the Easter period. It started at Lent, and I believe it's going to end when Easter ends. And Pentecost is 50 days from Easter, and that's May 31st. So I think everyth's going to be back to normal May 31st. That's my thought.
Okay.
But,
Well, that would be
That being
great.
said, we've got, so what we're going to cover today on our show is first, to give you a little roadmap, first we're going to go over some of what the news media is saying about domestic violence and around the world, locally and around the world, and the statistics. Then we're going to go into what some of the signs are. And, the signs that we have online they really are pro-victim. And I'm not talking about the falsely accused victim, because they're a victim too. I'm talking about a true person that's a victim.
Right.
The problem is that you can have a good marriage or a good relationship, and these things will also be in existence. But when
You mean the potential for domestic
the
violence?
abuse. I mean, abuse is not necessarily just abuse. You may be having a disagreement about some of this stuff, and you're going to read us the 8 different factors. There's someone checking your email. Well, that's not abuse. I think if you're married, my feeling is you should be able to look at your spouse's email. There's nothing wrong with that. If you have nothing to hide, Jim's got his phone open to me all the time. I can look at his emails, and if he wanted to hide it from me, I would be suspicious. And that may hurt our relationship. But since we don't have anything to hide, it's no big deal. Get over it. What is your take on that, Station Manager Dick? do you and your wife, or do you have access to each other's emails and phone information, passwords, and that kind of thing, or not?
Not offhand, but I can ask. Like, she knows my stuff, but her passwords and stuff are really complicated. So I'm like, I don't really care that much.
Mine aren't complicated because I can't remember them unless they're pretty simple. But if you asked, she would say,
Yeah.
"Go ahead." So, and do you think that's the way it should be, or no? You think privacy is privacy?
Well, I think it also depends on what in your lifestyles together, what kind of cross each other's paths. Meaning, like, who pays the bills? Is that information really important for both people to have, or who takes care? If that makes sense, because to me, it's just kind of, if it comes across the path, and yeah, it's easy to ask her what's going on,
And it's not suspicious.
but it's not something in my day-to-day life. I check her email
Yeah.
and
Right.
see what she's doing.
That would be pretty bad if you. That would be a different type
That-
of
I think
mental
that's
illness.
what
I
they're
think
talking about.
If you're checking their emails all the time without any catalyst
out of
for it.
suspicion
Right. That
and-
would be odd. Because,
Yeah.
And then I would wonder if maybe, they might need some maybe online counseling for that. But normally, I would say if everything in the universal relationship factors in, that there shouldn't be anything wrong with just kind of poking in and exchanging passwords if it's not because there's a suspicion, or that person wants to get your phone and wants to delete everything on it, which we
See, I think that's what that's talking about. You're
but
saying it's on this right
I have
here?
people that call me and they're looking for, and you know this because I've done divorces and we've seen both sides,
Right.
where one side wants to pick at the other to find reasons that they're bad, and they're not bad. I mean, they're just not. I mean,
Yeah.
they're pushing it to the limit, and it's actually sort of aggravating when they're not being real. And so
Who's not being real?
our
client?
client is
Oh,
telling
yeah,
us
they
how,
make up stuff.
how bad their
Right.
spouse is and how they're estranged, whether it's the husband or the wife. And then when you really get down to and you ask them the questions, it's really not that bad. I mean, you've got to put it all kind of in perspective, which is why we have to be the fact finders. And we talked about this last show. We have to put ourselves in a position where we have to be Solomon, because we have to tell our clients, this is never going to fly. This is not abuse. Or tell our clients, like we had another one where she was totally abused in every way.
I know.
And she couldn't get the police to pay attention to her no matter what
Right.
she did.
Right.
Which I will say this, if we get nothing else out in the show today that's really important, the police officer that you call, if you feel like you're being abused, if you call the National Domestic Violence Hotline, or if you call Montgomery County's the police department, because they're there to help you, and or any place, if you feel like you need help, you can reach out. You're a phone call or an email away. And a lot of what we're going today in the news articles is that people that are now subjected to staying in the same household and can't go anywhere because they can't rent anything or they don't have the money to go, they're less likely to call and ask for help because they're afraid they'll be found out, and then they'll get hurt. And so it's just like, let's just deal with a little bit of abuse that I'm dealing with, even if it's little. I mean, it's all degreed, and we're not going to call. But here, you want to call the hotlines for it. Now, where was I going with that? You want to call the domestic violence hotlines if there's a problem.
You said if anything comes out in this show, it's got to be this, that if you're really a victim of domestic violence, you need to.
Yes.
And
thank
that
you,
police
thank you.
officer.
And the person that you call, you've got a 10-second to 30-second elevator pitch, because your first impression, like everything else in life, if you're meeting somebody, or if you're presenting yourself to a jury, or if it's a sales pitch, if you're on Shark Tank, you've got basically 30 seconds to a minute to basically make an impression. And if you call them and you're in such a state that you're not speaking clearly, you're crying, you're out of control, and they're not seeing you, and then they're not taking you seriously. And that one impression, it may be the same officer that comes to your house over and over, and they're never going to take you seriously. Now, if you've got a gunshot wound, in
That's
your-
really true, guys. I mean, officers do have jurisdictions,
They have
and
complete
you
control.
you really could get the same officer or
and if they
two
don't
officers
believe
every
you,
time.
but you're really being
Yeah.
abused, then from then on out, the person that's abusing you knows they can get away with it.
Right.
And or if they know them, if there's some inside,
That's a
friendship or
problem
something.
too, right.
And that is the problem almost with everything in life, even though we're focusing on this right now for domestic violence. If like we have a jury, their first impression, if you show up and you don't look well, if you don't make a good impression, if you tell the wrong joke, but very, very specifically for domestic violence, if I had a friend call me and she's like, I'm being abused, you don't understand. And I'm like, I do understand. I need you to give me more facts. But she was crying and then she wasn't crying. And then she was kind of laughing. And then the things she was telling me weren't really what was really relevant. There was no way that this officer was going to take her seriously. Then she didn't want to even make a report to the officer because she thought, well, maybe I'm just blowing this out of, proportion. And the truth of the matter is she probably wasn't blowing it out of proportion. When I really got
She
down
just
to
needed
it,
to settle down.
She needed to settle down. But I really didn't know when she first called me if she'd been drinking, if she was on something,
Yeah.
if there was some mental illness. I didn't know if she was teasing with me because her presentation, even to me, was completely wrong. And so I had to sit her down. I said, I need you to control yourself. I said, I'm your friend and your attorney. And before you make any phone calls, I need you to take a deep breath and write down what the things are. Now, it's different if you've got a gunshot wound or you're bleeding. You don't have to even speak because it speaks for itself. You've been injured. It's a pretty bad thing, though, if and women have done this too, when they make the marks on themselves and try to, call wolf or whatever. And some of them are really good. They're actresses. So, but whether when the police show up, and they will, if there's a call, it doesn't take much to get the police out to your house.
Right.
If they come out, and they haven't been out there a number of times, because they won't come out if it's a repeat call and they never goes anywhere, then if you're really being abused, you've already blown it.
Right.
So you just need to leave and to go to safety. But if they come out there, they're going to go with the person they believe in. It's really, really sad, but that police report will be skewed to whoever they believe.
It sure will.
And so you got to have, and I just want to say that if in doubt, call your attorney or call somebody that you trust to bounce it off of them if you're not in imminent danger right then before you make the phone call. Because you don't want to wait a few weeks either, because timing's everything. You want to do it pretty quick if you really need some help. But on the one hand, you want to, if you're really being abused and you're in a situation where you're afraid, you need to call somebody for help and they will guide you or they'll come out and help you. If you feel like it's just you're using it as a weapon against your significant other, or there's a manipulation or motivation behind what you're saying and it's not really real, then at the same time, I would be bouncing that off maybe your clergy or be thinking twice about that, because while you may be a really good actor or actress about this, what you do will be seen again, whether it's by God or whether you're not going to remember your lies or whatever.
Right.
It's going to come out.
Or it's going to be apparent to people listening to you.
And it's going to be apparent to your kids and other family members.
Right.
Ultimately, it's going to come out. So just don't do it. All right.
Right.
So to get back to the statistics, I was going to kind of start our show out with just a little bit of taste of what we were looking at. And this was an article that was in the Austin American-Statesman. And I was just looking for what the statistics were for domestic violence now during COVID, and this one came up. And it says Austin police recently arrested, this was April 12th, so it was about a week ago, recently arrested a man twice in little more than a week after responding to a rental home in the Hyde Park, both times finding his girlfriend with injuries consistent with an assault, okay? So she wouldn't have to say anything. She has injuries consistent with an assault. She called the police, right?
Right.
It ends up that this guy was 23-year-old Jesse James, who is the son of Jesse James, who has the reality show. And he is the son of the former TV personality with the same name who reached acclaim building custom vehicles on the Discovery Channel show.
Okay.
It says that he was charged twice with assault, family violence for a misdemeanor on March 26th. So this is the second time he's been out. An emergency protective order was entered after the second arrest prohibits him from contacting this woman, who was only 18 at the time, through the end of May. Okay, that's pretty common. You get normally if there's any sort of domestic violence and there's probable cause, then to be safe, your prosecutors will request that an emergency protective order, it's called a MOEP, Motion for an Emergency Protective Order, is put in place for 60 days if there's no deadly weapon, and 90 days from the date of the offense if there is a deadly weapon, regardless, so they can kind of weed things out. And that protective order is pretty strong, and if you violate it, you're in big trouble.
Oh, yeah.
But they'll do it immediately, and the problem you have is if the woman, and this happens all the time, and it's usually the women, I hate to say that, but it's usually the women calling. If they call and it really was just they got in a fight, it may have been a mutual fight, or she was just mad. She's picked the phone up like a weapon, and she calls and says, hey, I've been abused, and this MOAP goes into place, then the next day her husband's in jail, she can't get him out, she can't bail him out, she recants. Not that easy. You can't just recant.
Right.
Once they're in jail, that prosecutor is not going to drop that case because you suddenly don't want it dropped. It doesn't matter what you say. They're only going to drop that case if they believe they can't make their case.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
So you really need to call an attorney when domestic violence comes up pretty much right away, even if it's just for a little bit of guidance.
I completely agree with that. And I also think that if you need a protective order, you need to not hesitate in getting one.
Yes.
Because if you're having a problem with domestic violence
Mm-hmm.
and you have a protective order and that's violated, that gives the police some teeth to come out. It's
to
not
raise the bond or deny the bond.
right, and it's
completely. Mm-hmm.
not. You said, he said, you said, he said. Now something you can actually
Because
be protected.
somebody with authority, meaning a court, a judge, someone that's given the God-given ability to make these decisions, has said, "Do not do this." I understand that you're innocent until proven guilty, but for 60 days you're going to have to not meet with, live there, whatever. And that's what I was going to say. They usually live together and they usually have kids together.
Yeah.
And now that breadwinner
Yeah.
is not at home, has no place to go, and they're having a change of heart and they want them home. And then they're like beckoning them home, the one that called.
Right.
And then they're in violation of the protective order, and all that person has to do, if it wasn't a true one, because on both sides of the coin, if it wasn't really an assault, and they get mad at you again for anything. I see on your phone that you were talking to somebody you didn't want you to talk with, I think, or some kind of a jealousy issue. They just pick up the phone and say, "He's here," and they just have to take a picture of you being there, and they're thrown in jail again. And it's
Yeah,
crazy. And then they
that's
have second
true.
thoughts again, and you can't fight with the prosecutor. It's
No.
not that easy.
No.
And there are 3 different types of domestic violence. One is domestic violence, it's misdemeanor. It's domestic assault if the threat or an act of violence against a person with whom the defendant has an intimate relationship, and it includes current spouse, former spouse, parent of the defendant's child, child of a current or former spouse, foster child or foster parent, blood relatives or adopted relatives, or roommate. Domestic violence is anybody that's pretty much associated with your house.
Right.
So it could be anybody. You could be fighting with your roommate. I could be like, just happen to be living over here with station manager Dick because, my house is being remodeled, and he's just letting me stay there, and I spend the night. I'm suddenly a domestic, even though I
roommate.
have nothing to do with him whatsoever.
Right.
And not that I wouldn't do that, but it can happen all the time. You just happen to be in their house, and it gets really touchy then. So another word to the wise: do not let people in your house to stay even the night if you don't know them well, because you don't know what they've got on them. You don't know what their background is. They've
so
suddenly,
true.
once they're in, you can't get rid of them. So be careful about that too. And I'm really bad about letting people stay over if they need a place to stay when they're first, in domestic violence situations. And I've stopped that business because you can't. As much as you like them, they're now a family member, and a lot of them have mental illness.
Yeah.
Now, to get back to this particular, I want to say that domestic violence has 3 different types. You've got domestic violence, just misdemeanor. You've got felony domestic violence when the accused says that they were choked at all. The police will always ask you that. Were you choked?
Oh, yeah.
And even
There's
if
a whole litany of
even if they
questions.
didn't choke them, that's what makes it a felony if you're cutting off their blood supply. And people just
Their air supply.
they're upset and they want to make sure they get arrested. Yes, he choked me. Now you've got a felony.
Well, and they can tell by the questions that if they answer yes to this, then it's going to go harder for him.
And
Remember
it's-
that
yes.
trial?
And the bad thing
They
is that
wanted the
they just wanna-
strangulation.
They just want to make sure that they get arrested. And the problem is that it's not true, and there may not even be any marks.
Right.
And now you've got a felony situation where it should have just been an argument where they over nothing. You know how arguments start over what's on the TV or what music's playing or whatever it may be. I think a lot of arguments start on how people are disciplining their children. Spouses usually have different methods.
It's true. Do you know that's one of the number one causes for divorce is different ideas on how children should be raised?
And some are more lenient because they have a memory of how they were raised with the strict
Sure.
rod or whatever. And then the other is wants to be strict because they don't want their kids to be like crazy people that run out in the middle of the street to catch a ball and get hit by a car or whatever. And that is but that little thing right there, it sounds small. And then
It's
you've got the
huge.
kids now siding with either parent or the
Yeah.
step parent,
And
now you've got
manipulating
World
them.
War III, and it's a mess. And so kids don't do that.
Yeah.
Continuous violence against the family is the third way, and these are third type of family violence.
And what level is that?
That's also a felony. It's a third-degree felony, and misdemeanor is up to $4,000 in jail, and it's a Class A. Well, I want to repeat. I want to go back just a little bit. You can have, and they do this in Montgomery County all the time. You can get charged with mutual assault. It's where both parties are kind of mutual combat is what it is, and that's a Class C misdemeanor. You're going to end up in the JP court. And usually, if it's the nice police officer will see that this is something that shouldn't escalate to the level where you need an attorney. You're going to go to jail. Class C misdemeanors,
Right.
you're not taking to jail. He just separates them and says, "Let's have a breather." I love it when police officers have a
I do
reasonable
too.
mind and they do that.
I do
And they'll
too.
issue a ticket. You may even get the ticket. You may not even know that you had it against you, and
Right.
you'll get the citation in the mail. Those you do not need an attorney to represent you, but it's not a bad idea because it could be escalating. You may want to go talk
Right.
to a counselor, whatever the case may be. That's a Class C, and that's not something you're arrested over, and you don't have a bond. If you're not arrested, you don't need a bond to get out because it's just Class C. All the ones that I've handled quite a few in JP court. It's usually going to be a deferred adjudication on that. You don't want to get a deferred if it's something that's going to be, if you have an immigration issue, though. Even a deferred on a mutual assault will hurt you if it's in the word assault at all. So just don't go there if you have immigration problems or somebody you know does. It goes up to the higher level of family assault, misdemeanor family assault. It's the first time and there's no choking and it was a fight. And again, the same thing applies to all the assaults. You don't want to get a deferred. You don't want to do a pretrial diversion. You don't want to in any way admit that that you were in some way, even if you didn't do it, committed violence. And a lot of people admit to it because they don't want to have to deal with they don't want to have to go to court again. They just do whatever it takes to end
No
the case.
kidding. Well, then what do, Tony? If they don't admit, if that's the
You
charge.
don't just take the easy way out and just say, okay, I'll take what you're offering me, this pretrial. I'll admit to it by getting a pretrial intervention. I'll admit to it by doing a deferred. I'll admit to it by doing a probation so I don't go to jail. If you didn't do it, don't admit to it. Don't take the easy way out. If you've got a spouse who is picking at you and pushing at you and trying to goad you into an assault for whatever reason, they want something or they just pick at you, then leave the situation, fight or flight, fly. And maybe this is not a good relationship for you to be in, okay? But you get to the next level of, the first level is misdemeanor. Well, the first level is actually JP, which is not even misdemeanor. It's a Class C misdemeanor.
Class C,
Then you get the county court misdemeanors, which are the Class A's and B's. And it's going to be a Class A if it's a first assault. There's no Class B assault. But you would want to get an attorney at that point because you do not want this on your record. Assault's a bad thing to have on your record, and it will show up on your record forever.
Right.
And it'll look like you're somebody that wife beats or kid beats or
derelict.
is assaultive.
Yeah,
And when somebody just puts your name in one of the county records, any county records, and it shows up that you had an assault against you, the automatic thing that comes to their mind is that you punched somebody out or you stabbed somebody. And it may have been nothing more than it was a mutual fight and you just wanted to get it off your record. But
Right.
you don't get that benefit when it's an employer looking at your record. So
Right.
don't
Don't do
don't
it.
do it. Take the longer, more difficult road to exonerating yourself if you're not guilty of that. Now, if you are guilty, then you may want the pretrial intervention. You may want to do the deferred, the probation, and then get some counseling and help. And I will say this: Montgomery County is very good about giving you a deferred or a pretrial intervention and asking that a part of the punishment be to take a domestic violence class. They're very, very good, and I think that
But that still won't get it off your record. If
it
you
won't
do
get them. It
deferred.
won't. That's why if you didn't really do it, you don't want to do that. But I think domestic violence classes, even the ones they have online, are good for anybody to see, so you can help somebody else that may be going through that.
Yeah.
So you have up to $4,000 in a year in jail for a misdemeanor, and then it gets really bad if you've got somebody that's calling on you all the time that it's phony. You really didn't do it. Or if you really are being abused, you should get, just like we were saying, you should be able to present this in a proper way so that you're taken seriously and be able to get this person away and maybe some help, and even in jail. A lot of people have come to Jesus moments when they're in jail because they realize how bad things are and how good they had it at home. You can get, for a state jail, it's 2 to 10 years in prison, or state jail, 2 to 10 years in state jail.
What are
I'm
we
sorry,
talking about?
state jail's up to 2 years in state jail. If you get a continuous violence, the first one is a state jail felony. If you have it is a third degree felony, then that's real prison, that's TDC time, and it's 2 to 10 years. But you could get 2 to 10 years probated for 2 to 4, whatever. So you could stay out. You don't get in trouble. If you do get in trouble on your probation, if you commit domestic violence again, then you go back to that very same judge and they can throw the book at you for the full 10 years, depending on how bad it was. So you really do have to comply with the terms of the judge. Judges don't mess around. They don't like to be disrespected. A second degree is 2 to 20 years. But what I found with the second degree is it's pretty much people get out on probation or on parole if they get the 2 to 20. When I see second and third degree, I do like from a defense attorney standpoint, I do like it when it's a third degree better because you can get the 1244A and it can be reduced to a lower level, to a state jail or to a misdemeanor for the punishment phase. You still don't want it on if you didn't do it. But if you did do it, you want to remember that 1244A means you get a felony conviction because you've agreed to it, but your punishment's only going to be a misdemeanor or a state jail. It's going to be
okay.
lower punishment. And 1244A is the code in the Code of Criminal Procedure. First degree felony is 5 to 99 years, and let me tell you, it is not first degree felony is really easy just from the accusation of someone saying it. Someone calls up. Someone just makes the accusation. They don't have any other evidence. But if they're convincing enough, you can get hit with the first-degree felony charge, and they will find probable cause. And if you don't take it seriously, just like we said in the last show, you could be in prison for 50 years without parole, easily. 99 years without parole. And I would say, I've seen that. You know, people are only in jail for 6 years with murder. No. You can get, if it's an election period and the judge is the one sentencing, or if the
Right.
jury just doesn't like you because maybe you had one of them, the foreman, who was really strong-willed or whatever, before you know it, your life has changed, and now your new home for the rest of your life is prison until you get out, and you may not be able to get out. So
Right.
take it very, very seriously. Just the accusation can be enough. If just like we're going to talk about today a little bit more, is if you're in a relationship where you've got somebody that may have drug problems, may have mental health issues, whatever the problem is, but they're accusing you to manipulate you, you need to get out of that relationship or get them help, because
Oh, it's so dangerous.
if it's a girl or a guy, and the bad thing is guys get a bad rap because guys get abused too.
They do.
Guys get their spouses are lying. Their spouses are doing it, being abusive, having their brake lines cut, or pointing the gun at them, knowing that they can get away with it because they're beautiful.
Yeah.
Or whatever the case may be, they're very manipulative. They know they can get away with it because they've gotten away with it before.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the same turn, you need to leave that relationship. And if you really have a thing for each other, like all my clients do for some reason, they're attracted, opposites attract, then you need to get some serious counseling. Or and what I tell all my clients, just don't listen to me, is have cameras in your house. And because you can video your own house for like the ADT or whatever. You get the little cameras in there, or keep your phone going whenever you're recording it. As bad as it may sound, if you're in that type of situation, you're going to need
Some
a witness,
evidence.
and your witness may be your phone and some cameras, because that is the best evidence. Okay, yeah. James, this guy that went twice back to his 18-year-old girlfriend's house, is currently out of jail, posting an $8,000 bail after defying the judge's order. The arrest came at a time of heightened worry that stay-at-home orders related to coronavirus pandemic will result in an uptick in family violence as people in volatile relationships are confined to homes they share with each other without much room for distance, just as we were saying. And that has been what the statistics show.
Right.
Yet, at least for now, authorities of Travis County and in Montgomery County, too, was in another Montgomery County article. And we've got I think it was actually it was the Magnolia Chamber of Commerce had a whole bunch of stuff about this online. It was really interesting, but kind of corroborated the same information. The different counties have actually arrested fewer people for family violence since isolation practices started becoming widespread since mid-March. And that's according to the county attorney's domestic violence division. Petitions for protective orders are coming in at a normal rate, but those findings are based on only observations and not hard statistics, which this particular county attorney in Travis County said were not available through his office. The American Statesman in Austin filed a request for data on family violence arrest from the Austin Police Department through the Texas the Texas Public Information Act, which, by the way, any of us can simply email information under tpia.com, and you can look it up at the governor's site or the various.
What is
chambers of-
TPIA?
It stands for Texas Public Information Act.
Oh,
And you can ask for public information, just like
Yeah.
these statistics on your own, about arrest, about your next door neighbor. There's a lot of public information. People just don't go. And information is power. You don't want to use it against them, but it's good to be able to protect yourself with that. But officials have not responded yet. The SAFE Alliance, which offers services to victims of domestic violence, and that's a capital SAFE if you Google it, said volume has returned to normal following an uptick of approximately 40% that coincided with the start of the isolation.
And that's Austin?
That's
Travis
in
County?
Austin.
Yeah, this right here, the DA in Montgomery County reported a 35% rise in domestic violence.
Right, and that's for the exact same
So it's
reason.
the same thing.
People are, whether they're calling or not calling, or whether they're taking the case or not, goes right back to what we were saying, whether you're believed or not, how well you presented, if there's any evidence of domestic violence. And people are now not calling because they're afraid. The ones that there may be they said the uptick is going down because people see that they're not going to get any resolution. So are just doing like, the Diary of Anne Frank. They're just doing what they have to do to survive until this is over. Now, he said the decrease, as we were talking about, may be misleading because people are suffering abuse or maybe suffering abuse at a higher rate, but do not feel comfortable alerting authorities while their partner or the abusive parent is still near them. And we talked about that last week, where kids aren't going to school, they can't report to their teachers, and they're afraid because if their parents are abusing them, still domestic violence, what are they going to do? And we're not talking, I guess it could happen with teenagers, but we're talking about, the 5, 6, 7, 10-year-olds, the ones that really, the only people they have to see what's going on is going to be their teachers, their churches, people that are outside. And if they're not going anywhere, who knows what's going on behind closed doors. It's really hard to make that phone call or send that text message for support. Running with the theory on why call volume has decreased since the initial spike, and that goes toward knowing your significant other's password. If there really is abuse going on, and they know your password, they're going to see her calling the police. So that kind of goes, the sword is a double-edged sword. You want to be able to share and be open, but if you're afraid of your spouse, you don't want to have them be able to see that you're calling the police. On the other hand, I think that you could very easily walk next door to your neighbor and say, could you call them for me? Mm-hmm. There's ways of getting around that. The affidavit in James' first arrest stated that police arrived to the rental home in Austin after a caller reportedly heard a woman's yell for help. Don't hurt me. That's a lot of times how it comes up, and it's frustrating for me when I take these cases and I'm trying so hard to resolve the situation and get counseling for these people or whatever, and I've got third-party witnesses that have called, and a lot of times the third-party witness really didn't hear what they heard at all, but they did too. So it kind of goes both ways. You have to really look at all the evidence.
Right.
The woman, according to the affidavit, had been dating James for about 6 months. She told police that James had stomped on her arm 3 times after she confronted him about cheating on her. That is such a common thread of why the people are fighting with each other, because
Right.
one person thinks the other's cheating and they confront the person who is cheating, and they don't want to be confronted with the truth, and so they fight back. Like, if I silence you, how dare you even
Yeah.
say that? And it's abusive
Yeah.
to say it's all in your head. And then they really do abuse them. So police noted in the report that the woman had 2 fresh bruises on her forearm and a bleeding cut to her wrist, and that her knuckles were bright red. And I will say, in defense of Jesse James' son, she could have made those marks on herself, and she may have been mad he was cheating, and she just wanted to get him in trouble because he was a celebrity son. So we really don't know based on this report.
Right.
James, when questioned about the woman's injury, said they were from, now this I don't believe in, from rough sex. I hear that. When I hear that, it's like, no, I'm never believing that rough sex is so prevalent that you're going to have bruises all over your arms between 18, 19, and 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
The magistrate judge originally set a $2,000 bond, which is very common, and approved a personal bond against the recommendation of pre-trial services. It is not uncommon for a judge to disregard the recommendation, particularly for a misdemeanor offense. It's very common to get a personal job on a personal bond on a first offense of any kind.
Right.
So another word to wise for people that are arrested for the first time. Do not just pay your bond and get out. If you wait and talk to the judge, the magistrate judge may say, just get somebody to sign for you and I'm going to cut you loose, and you don't lose your $2,000 or have to go to a bonds person.
Right.
And to go along those lines, if you pay the money directly to the jail, you'll get it all back at the end of the case, regardless of whether you've been exonerated or not. If you pay money to a bondsman, which is usually 10 to 50% of whatever the bond is, depending on your immigration status or whether you have a propensity for not showing up or whatever the case may be, then you're never going to get that money back because your bondsman, that's part of the perk of having a
Right.
bondsman.
Yeah.
8 days later, James was rearrested after an officer responding to the same home found the woman in a bath towel crying and holding her head. It could have been that she was making it up again because she found out he was cheating again, or it could be that he's abusive. The woman, according to the affidavit, told police she did not feel safe when James was released after the first arrest and had a friend come stay with her. That's good. I mean, that would be logical.
Okay.
So she has her friend staying with her, and James isn't around, right? The day before the second incident, James made the friend leave the home, the affidavit said. I don't believe that. Right now, I'm not believing this girl. What power did this guy have to go to this girl's apartment and say, you need to leave this home?
It was her apartment,
Right.
right?
Well, I don't know. They don't give you enough information here.
Yeah.
But if there was a protective order, it didn't matter whose apartment it was. He wasn't supposed to
Right.
be there.
Yeah.
So I don't believe her now. I don't believe either one of them at this point. James, I think that they're a feuding couple, and she's 18 and he's 23, and she likes it. He's got some social presence, and his dad's a celebrity. And I think they just like each other, and they're playing games with the law. And if I were the police officer, I'd be really frustrated right now at this point.
Yeah.
James, the woman told, sprayed her with a shower head, kicked her in the back, and pulled her hair. Well, I don't even know why. I don't know if it was his first offense. That's pretty severe, but could have happened. He also threw it. He also threw an apple at her. The woman said she repeatedly screamed for James to stop. So, as an offense attorney, I'm hearing this. So he's eating an apple, and he walks over. That doesn't make sense to me. As a defense attorney, I'm not believing her now, because none of this is making sense. He's out of there. He comes back. He gets rid of the girl that she's staying with. He throws an apple over while she's in the shower.
Well, we don't know that it was a girl. It could have been a guy.
Oh, I thought it said. Yeah, you're right. It said.
Did it say
had
girl?
a friend come stay with her?
Yeah,
it
that's
doesn't. It
all
could
I
have been a
heard
guy.
was friend, right?
Yeah. So we don't know anything about this girl either. An emergency protective order prohibits James from contacting women and from going within 200 yards of a rental home or another address where she stays. And I'm going to add another little caveat to that. If this woman wanted to see him at the mall, if she wanted to go to his house, if she could arrange to see him anywhere she wanted, as long as it's not 200 yards from her home or an address where she stays, or generally it's where she works also. So these don't prohibit you from staying with whoever. The protective order is you can't say. I hear people come to the judge all the time and saying you got to lift this protective order. They live together. They have no place to go. And the truth of the matter is, if you've got in this kind of violent situation, you do need to be separated, and you better keep it on the down low if you're going to go back living together again, because
Right.
that person that's got the protective order against them is going to go to
Can
jail.
call, right.
But if you really do want to stay together or at least see each other, and there may be kids involved, then stay away from each other, get separate places to stay, even if it's someone's couch, and then you can visit at the mall if you need to try to work it out or whatever, provided that it's the victim that allows it. You can't, because if the victim's making it up, then they're going to erase all the text messages inviting you, and then you're now stuck again with, they stalked me at the mall.
Right.
So you better have some evidence before you even do that. James is due in court on May 21st for the first arrest and May 29th for the second arrest. His defense attorney did not respond to multiple messages. That's pretty standard. Defense attorneys do not want to talk about the case in public. It's not wise ever, because she probably hasn't collected all the facts. What if this girl really is being abused? She doesn't want to put that person in danger either. James' father lives south of Austin in Driftwood. I didn't know that Jesse James lived in Austin. He recently announced a split from his wife, who's a prominent drag racer, whose father, John Paul DeJoria, co-founded Paul Mitchell. I didn't know all these people lived so close up there in Austin. All right. So the older James Privet was married to Academy Award-winning actress Sandra Bullock. So they're all well-connected, and it's no surprise that this made the Statesman's newspaper. But this is not uncommon for these kind of things to happen to people that are not well established and have some kind of mark in social media or just regular media. It happens a lot when the wife or the husband is financially taken care of by the other, and one person feels like they are being manipulated, regardless of which one it is. the wife doesn't have any money, the husband is
Is
controlling,
entitled or
is
whatever.
entitled, or it could be that the wife is used to having everything done for her, and now she's mad because she's not getting everything she wants. So you just have to establish all the facts. What do you have on your violence scale?
We've got some signs of physical violence, or violence, either physical or sexual violence. One is using coercion and threats, making or carrying out threats to do something or hurt someone. The other, this says her, but I would say him or her, threatening to leave him or her, to commit suicide, to report him or her to welfare, making him drop the charges, her drop the
That
charges.
is more common than you know.
It sure is.
Somebody threatening suicide, and maybe they are suicidal, and people stay with them so they won't be
Well,
suicidal.
but that threatening suicide, Tony, is so common. It's such a
but a lot of times it
common-
may be because they're so distraught because they wanted it to work, and maybe they've had some kind of issues with their, but they need some counseling if they go there.
But
Sec-
that is just so coercive. I mean,
is
my
coercive.
gosh, talk about, can you imagine having kids with this person and them saying all the time, if you don't do so and so, I'm going to kill myself. I'm
well,
gonna
you know
kill
what?
myself."
That sometimes they do that, and that's really sad because
Yeah, that's the
who
worst
was it?
part.
I was reading about it wasn't James Taylor. It was Jackson Brown's new wife of 3 months, way back in the 70s. I don't know what the situation was, but she was gorgeous, and she threatened to commit suicide, and then she did. And the same thing, you have to wonder when people are really going to go through with it because they're so upset that the relationship isn't working that they'll do it. So you can't take it that lightly. You have to
That's
listen
why
to
it's
it.
so terrible.
Yeah, if they're doing it and they really don't mean it. But I had another case where it was, I'm going to threaten to turn you into
To welfare, right.
Because the gals can't work, or maybe the guys if they're watching them, but typically it's the mom at home with the kids. They can't work, and so they're trying to find a way to get childcare, and so they'll leave the kids with the oldest child who may only be 13, or they have somebody that may have a drinking problem watching their kids, or they leaving them with them. They're doing what they have to do to survive, and this other person knows they've got something on them. Maybe they were, they had a history of being an alcoholic, and they're going to say, "I'm going to say you're an alcoholic, and I found this,
Oh,
and I'm going to turn you
absolutely.
in."
Absolutely.
So people are manipulative, and they do really bad things. So that is abuse. It may not be enough to call the police over. I think it may be enough to leave that relationship over.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
Using economic abuse, preventing the other person from getting or keeping a job, that's not uncommon.
And I always wonder though, why don't you just go get a job? Unless they're calling, the hospital or wherever you got your job and making it
Gosh,
so
Tony,
you can't
I know
keep
people where their husband would sabotage their computer every time they had to use it.
Mm-hmm.
They'd find it all thrown over. They'd steal it, break it.
That's when you leave though.
yeah.
I mean, that's when you call the National Domestic Violence Hotline, or you call your mom or somebody you trust and to say, as bad as this is, I have to leave the situation with my kids. And I'm telling you, I had a good friend of mine that said there was 3 things you need to do. You need to get a job, get a car, and get a place. And if you get a job, then you got to get some transportation, even it may be just out of order. It may be get a place and then get a car, but you can take the bus around in Houston. It's a little bit more difficult in Conroe. But you've got to get a job. And if it means you've got to leave before you get the job, go do it. That's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah,
And if it means
yeah.
going to the domestic violence hotline so they can get you temporary housing until you get set, fine. But what these gals do is that they line it up and then they keep going back because they don't like the domestic violence place where they're sitting. They were more comfortable where they were at before. And then it's just a big cycle. So anyway.
Economic abuse, using economic abuse. We talked about preventing the job thing. I think this is true, and I hate it. Making her ask for money, giving her an allowance, taking her money or his money.
And then I'm going to have the flip side of that. What if the person that you're giving the money to is like one of the wives of Atlanta or something, the housewives of Atlanta? What if they have a charge card and they've abused it by getting plastic surgery and going shopping and going spending money on their friends, and they're bankrupting the family and buying the best things for their kids and getting the best of everything when really the reality is perhaps the husband just doesn't make that much, and then she's making him feel bad about himself, and that's another deal. So using money as a tool, saying I'm not going to give it to you, that's true. That shouldn't happen.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
But on the other hand, it could be that there's no money to be given. There's no credit because you're trying to make ends meet, And so you have to look at both sides.
Well, I mean, that's what he'll say. But this is about violence, right? And then the last one, this is kind of interesting, not letting her know about or have access to family income. That I deal with that a lot
That's
in divorces.
completely wrong in every way, because in Texas, if you're married, it's community property.
Right.
Unless you've got some kind of substance abuse problem or you're really abusing the family bankroll, there is no reason why you cannot know and have access it if you're working together as a unit. And that goes even if you're separated. You can't, it's completely wrong for the spouse that's the earning spouse, and it's been set up like that, like you've got the domestic
Right.
a person at home to starve you out, so you can't get an attorney, so you can't live, so that you've been abused into doing whatever. That's completely wrong, and it happens a lot.
It sure does. Using male privilege is another one. So we have using coercion and threats, using economic abuse, using male privilege, acting like the master of the castle and all that stuff. We know what that is. Using the children, making the other person feel guilty. Using the children as little transmitters for messages.
But the kids, and I will just throw this in here, kids are smart. They are like really smart, and they can see generally if they're survivors, they can see where the money is, and it's really easy to buy kids out. If they see both parents are crazy, then they're going to go to where they're going to survive, and
That's
that may
so
be
true.
And that means if the husband's a bad guy, but or the man, I keep the best scenario and that I keep using, even though it can go both ways. Shouldn't be gender biased, but if the kids see that the dad's got all the money, and both parents are crazy, then they're going to basically manipulate it so that if dad's willing to give them what they want, the bigger Christmas toy, the bigger vacation, the better car, maybe the better Barbie, the better bike, take them
Right.
to more fun places, then they're going to be like, Dad's so wonderful. And then dad can slowly groom them into showing them how bad mom is. But on the other hand, maybe that's the case. Maybe mom is an alcoholic, drug addict, abuser that's cheating, and it's all true. So you really have to look at all the facts. But yeah, kids are pretty smart, and they're seeing what's going on. So
Threatening to take the children away, using visitation to harass each other. Another one is
so common.
minimizing and denying and blaming. Well, we've been talking about that the whole time. Making light of the abuse and not taking his concerns about it seriously, saying the abuse didn't happen.
that's
Shifting
an
responsibility.
emotionally abusive when you know that something's happening and they're saying basically you deserved it.
Yeah.
You're imagining that was nothing. I'm just kind of reflecting back on all the different cases I've handled. It's insulting when somebody takes you when you're already at a weak emotional moment and they try to make you think you're crazy.
Yeah. Using isolation. That's a also common and unfortunate, controlling what he or she does, what
And
they
the
see,
isolation
what they
works
talk
because
to.
they're like, oh, I love you so much. I only want to be with you. And then they slowly but surely make it so that you can't be with your friends anymore. And suddenly your whole world is with this person and maybe their cohorts, which are not people you would hang out with at all.
Right.
So
right.
so the key is we've got social media. Just kind of stay in touch with your buds. And it's unlikely in these days, it's a little different from before we had such prevalent social media and the ability to get out and talk to people.
That's a good point.
That you couldn't go keep up with your friends and kind of let them know what's going on.
Using emotional abuse is another way to exert power and control over someone. Putting them down, making them feel bad about themselves, telling them they're crazy, playing mind games. Do you know, I'm a psychology major, right? Do you know that it's very common for men, and it's the men that do it, I don't know why, but to hide things, move things out of their wives' wallets and say they didn't do it. And playing mind games is
Girls do that
very,
too, though. Are you
very
kidding me?
common. Well, statistics show that it's
Men do it more, so they think the women think they're crazy.
when I heard that,
But I know
Tony,
women do
that
that
was
too.
so weird to
the
me.
bad thing is when I've represented a lot of guys in divorces, and
Yeah.
the women are doing the same thing, but they're documenting it. So it depends on who's the better manipulator, which goes back to the exact same thing I said earlier in the show. It's really the 30-second pitch to whoever you're telling this to.
That's a
Whether it
really,
be the
really good
jury or
point.
the officer. If you're really in danger, don't downplay it. You seriously get a hold of this in your right mind and explain what happened. And if you aren't in your right mind, then you call
Get
your
in your
best
right
friend
mind. Yeah.
that can get you in your right mind, that
Yeah.
can maybe be your spokesperson. And your attorney's a good one to do, talk to, so they can put them on the phone with that person right there. They may not have been there, but they can lay it out quickly so a police report can be done.
Right. Okay, well, we want to thank you guys for listening. We hope you're staying safe and you're staying healthy. And send us your questions. You can question us on Facebook. You can also download and listen to this tomorrow on Google Play or iTunes. And tune in next week.
If there is a domestic violence situation, don't err on the side of calling for help. Domestic
That's right.
violence hotline, the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department, and leave. Don't stay around and be abused. Grab your kids, get in the car, and leave. Fight or flight. And then
flight.
next step is find a job, get a place to stay, and get a car.
That's right. And also, I just want to real quickly say that there's a crime victims compensation program where you can be compensated if you are a victim of domestic violence. And let me just give you a number real quick. It's toll-free 800-983-9933. And in Austin, it's 512-936-1200. Crime Victims Compensation Program.
Not just for domestic violence, but very prevalent with domestic violence.
okay.
If you have an injury, a hospital injury, you have property damage, definitely call because that's a really, really good program, and they come through.
Okay, and we want to remind you to
Serve God by serving others.
have a great week, guys.
Today's show was recorded and broadcasted live on irlonestar.com, Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and all rights and ownership are reserved to Lone Star Community Radio. For more information regarding this program and Lone Star Community Radio, visit us online at irlonestar.com. Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's community radio station, serving the community with local programming on TV, radio, and online. If you enjoyed today's program, please support us by sponsorship or starting your own show. Contact us today by phone or text at 936-666-1084 or email the station at lscrstudios@gmail.com.